Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 325. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and I'm going to do an interview here with Kevin Layde, a gentleman, a really good immigration attorney that switched to private practice many years ago. It's really developing it. So it really goes into his background, how he did it, because I know a lot of people who are making the switch to private practice and starting a firm kind of thing are wondering how to do it. And it's a really good example of developing partnership from having, I believe it's a nonprofit background too. So it's we're definitely worth listening to get a hang of what the future looks like. Having said this is an interview I did. When did I do it? As you know, I'm getting into a backlog of like 10 interviews and podcasts I did that I haven't published. This one's from September 2003. So better yet, late than never. Sorry, Kevin. I appreciate your patience. I have a couple coming up, which were like times. I have one coming up time specific too. I would appreciate him, Austin Coacher. We'll get it that way. He goes. It's in the like two more podcast backlog I had to get through. But obviously the information here is 910 for individual legal guidance. Please consult with an attorney. If you're interested in learning about marriage immigration law, the practice of it, I mean, I'm talking with Kevin about the practice in a sense of the business, but if you want to learn marriage immigration, family immigration, really adjustment of status, consular processing, which is general, affirmative-based immigration, affiliate support, how inadmissibility looks like to be able to analyze it, how to interview. We have the best course out there. Even if you're already practicing immigration law, it's going to help you. But if you're going to switch over to this practice area or you want your team to learn it so you don't have to teach it to them, it's like 12 hours plus broken down into segments plus office hours. It's great. So it's just email me info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And for a limited time only, I'm going to do a combo. We're going to include the raw footage, like it's 10 hours, I think itself or something like that, of the O1 seminar in Santa Monica, California, that was recorded with the top immigration lawyers here that do O1s. And it's really, really good sessions. I learned a lot from it. Everyone there learned a lot. Even the people teaching it learned a lot. It's like, oh my God, this session was good for us. So these were experts, and the experts learn from experts. It's like that quality. And it's a shame that I haven't put this out there because it really is a disservice to the community. I'm going to get the raw footage on, so I forgot how to edit it. But the only difference is like it's just raw footage. I'm going to edit it where it's like every topic has like, it's like 10 minutes. So you can like pick and choose which topic you want to listen to instead of like a 2 hour like block of speaking or an hour block of speaking. But other than that, it's awesome. So just email me info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com and we get the ball rolling and get your practice where it needs to be and get your life up and running. Having said that, let's get the interview started. Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I really appreciate being here, John. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. Could you start with going around kind of your background, how you got into this, and where you are, and I'll ask more questions in the midst of it about your practice. But yeah, where are you coming from? How did you become an immigration lawyer?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes I wonder that myself. So I've been doing this for about 10 years. I live and born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, kind of in the upper Midwest. Grew up in not a particularly diverse environment, did not know a lot of people from other countries, really. Mostly knew people who kind of looked like me when I was kind of growing up and starting out, and it wasn't really on my radar. I was sort of an overeducated liberal arts style person without a lot of direction. After I finished up college and was kind of looking for a path, I had some kind of vague sense that I wanted to do something to help people, but didn't really know what that would be. So I got placed in, I did it. This was also during the Great Recession when there wasn't a ton of jobs available, is when I came out of college, like 2009. So I did a AmeriCorps program, like a lot of people, I think my age, kind of a service project for a couple of years. And I got placed in a high school in my hometown that was probably majority either immigrant students themselves or children of immigrants. And I really got to sort of see some of the challenges that those folks faced. And it really blew my mind. I mean, this was like 5 miles from where I grew up, and the people were just completely different totally different experience of what it means to live in America, kind of than what I was used to. And it got me interested in it. And I was always thinking about law school in the back of my mind. So I kind of came into it with a sense that I should check out immigration law. I kind of tried some stuff out. A couple years later, I'd done some clinics that got me doing some removal defense, and I'd won got the chance to participate in and win a couple of removal hearings by the time I was, 26 or something, 25 while in law school, and I was kind of hooked. So one thing led to another, and here I am. I started out doing nonprofit work for a few years at a Catholic Charities where in our community, and then after a while, I opened up my own firm, and we've just kind of been plugging along since then.
What city are you headquartered in?
We're in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And you
Milwaukee,
mentioned
Wisconsin.
Catholic Charities. You have a lot of listeners from that. Like, how do people get a job with Catholic Charities? They're an umbrella organization, the name, but each chapter is pretty independent. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know for sure, but my sense is it's really one of the few kind of like nationwide organizations that provides direct legal representation to undocumented individuals. I think a lot of nonprofits have different funding constraints and things like that. So they're obviously like, part of whatever archdiocese I think they're in the communities they're in, and they have some money and some availability to do that type of stuff. So before I started law school, I was looking around at what, if I wanted to work at a nonprofit providing direct legal services, what could I do? And it was literally basically the only one in southeastern
Yeah.
Wisconsin. So I immediately, started just like went over, knocked on the door, introduced myself to the supervising attorney when I was at 1L, said, hey, I want to work here once I graduate. And what's your internship type stuff? And, kind of got plugged in, and one thing led to another.
Very cool. Very cool. So how long were you working with them?
I think I made it about 3 years. It's like my first maybe 2.5 or 3 years of practice before I set off on my own. It was a great experience. My supervising attorney had been doing this forever, super knowledgeable, able to kind of, talk great flow of clients, let me work independently, got to learn all those things like consular processing and 245I and really those tools that you need as a
Yeah.
family immigration attorney by just seeing tons of cases. And I think without that experience, I definitely would not be able to do what I'm doing today for
Oh,
sure.
great. So it wasn't just removal. You doing constant processing is yeah, you had all
Yeah.
the gamut of family based and stuff.
Yeah, it was everything. It was really, frankly, it's mostly what I think the stuff I do now is just like slightly more complex aspects of the same, 8 case types I learned when I was
Yeah.
just starting out, right? So we get, VAWAs and U visas and T visas and family based removal defense. So, certainly enough to be able to make a practice out of. So invaluable experience for me, definitely.
And how did you start your practice? What were like the things you had to do to start it?
Yeah, well, I think I'm about, let's see, 7 years into having my own practice, and I think I've sort of started to figure out what I'm actually doing from a business side. So that's definitely always been a bit of a challenge, not having a ton of training and stuff like that. But I knew I just kind of had a vision that I wanted to be able to do things in a certain way that I had control over and take the types of cases that I wanted, and just kind of have like a certain mindset, I guess, about like how I wanted to run my practice. So I think that's the key, right? Is like to actually have the desire to do that. And I think a lot of the details you can figure out as you go along. But I mean, I was driving down the street and I saw an old storefront in an immigrant neighborhood that said for rent, and I started to think to myself, hey, I could probably put a law practice in there, right? And then I think like 2 days before I actually opened up, I registered an LLC online, and it's just like downloaded the Microsoft suite and opened the door and sat around for somebody to walk in. Basically, it was just me and one kind of one person, one friend of mine that we started the practice with back then. And over time now we've grown. We're kind of in a more like an office park type thing now. We've got 10 employees total, including myself. So, we have like different divisions and all that type
Yeah.
of stuff. But really, it has been like one day at a time, honestly.
So you're three lawyers right now, you, your partner, and associate, or are there more
Yep,
associates?
that's right. Yep, just one associate right now.
How did you connect with a partner, and what made you decide to start with a partner instead of fully going solo?
Yeah, so I actually was solo for about 6 months, probably. And then I had a colleague that I actually met at Catholic Charities as well. Her name's Gabby. She has her family's immigration experience is much closer to her. Her parents are from Mexico, and she's just super great, really sharp, super hardworking, and she was kind of my partner, my buddy in a sense when we were working together at the nonprofit. And I found myself I'd be calling her every twice a day, asking her case questions anyways when I was a solo. And so at a certain point, it was like, I don't know, what, we got an open office next to mine. I feel like you can move on over here. And she definitely took a leap of faith to come with me. The nonprofits don't pay a lot, and she took a pay cut at the start to come join me at a for-profit. So definitely, we had to count that we were being able to build something together. But I mean, I think it's invaluable. I really, I give a lot of credit to solos because I feel like it could be very sort of isolating maybe or something.
Yeah.
You're kind of up on the mountaintop by yourself, and I always have a person to check me, let me know if my ideas don't make sense or when we can improve something or provide positive feedback. And like having a peer to be able to do that has been crucial to me for my practice
Yeah,
stuff.
the relationships you develop in law practice, just any kind, you never know when it's gonna pay off. And yeah, having that relationship where you can partner up with somebody, it's a hard thing to do. But if you found someone that's wonderful, how did you start getting your initial the client in? How did you the first paying customers?
Yeah, I honestly think if I hadn't done the nonprofit stuff, it wouldn't work because I don't have a natural like constituency of immigrant clients just based on my personal life. So Much like anything, I'd probably successfully completed 70 cases or something by the time I moved out. And so that's 70 families, right? And then
Yeah.
those families are going to have somebody who needs, every single one of those people is going to have a cousin or a brother or something like that. And they're going to say, hey, this, 28-year-old down the street in this tiny storefront did a good job in my case back in the day. You should go look him up. And, people walk down the street. We would literally put big flyers in grocery stores and stuff like that in the neighborhood. We did some Spanish language radio. I go in on Saturdays and answer questions and stuff like
Nice.
that for people. And I mean, really just like fighting for every single client. And then I remember like looking at my bank account, every week, being like, oh God, okay, I got to do this. I got to pay this rent. I got to do that. And then at a certain point, you just hit a critical mass. I don't know. Not to say that, we're sort of like, millionaires or whatever, but like you just get to a point where it's like all of a sudden that you don't have to scrap for every single call that comes in. You
Yeah.
get a certain level of credibility, I think, in the community. And I bet it took like a year maybe to really get to that point, like to go to the really hairy part. But since then, it's been okay. We don't really have to advertise a ton anymore, which has been super nice.
Do you have an immigration court in Milwaukee?
We do not. So our nearest court is in Chicago, which was kind of a pain, back in the day, getting on a 6 a.m. train to go down there to do a 15-minute master hearing or whatever. Fortunately, well, not fortunately, but COVID changed everything now. So there's a couple of stickler judges that will still want to see you in person, but we got a nice video camera set up in our conference room, and I'm trying to do 100% court remote. My clients prefer it because they're scared to walk in there, which I totally understand. They like to have, I think, the screen between them and the judge. It's a little, just getting used to it, but now it's been good. So I think, I probably went to Chicago 3 or 4 times a month back in the day, and I think I probably went 3 or 4 times in 2022 total. So hopefully
Awesome.
that's kind of the direction we're going.
Yeah, it's important because a lot of people might be in not necessarily city centers, but they're debating to start their practice and they have to move to Chicago or LA or New York. But there's possibilities to do it like this. It comes. I bet it was a burden to have to get that long trek to get there, but especially the new technology is possible. How are you handling remote work? Is your office remote or not? It looks like you're in the office today, but how are you guys
Yeah.
handling it?
Yeah, I don't know. I might just be like, as an elder millennial, not 100% tech savvy or whatever. But there's something to me about having the team together, I think. And I think part of it is our expectations for our clients, where they like to be able to walk in and just see that there's someone at the desk and answer,
Yeah.
someone can come out and answer their questions, or they're going to just show up with money at times too, right, for their cases randomly on a Friday afternoon. And if there's nobody there, right, it's like, so I definitely like to keep staff in here. We do some remote. The attorneys are free to do remote work pretty much as they choose, to use their time a little bit more freely. But for most of the staff, we have a pretty big space. I think it's like people are starting to come back into offices. We got a pretty good deal on a decent sized office. And, we got like multiple conference rooms now. We got like a little coffee bar or whatever, just like in the lobby or whatever. So it's kind of nice, I think. So we're pretty much, most days everybody's here, I would say.
So when you're thinking about like next 3 to 5 years, what does work look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, there's going to be something in about 14 months that's going to have to do with that, meaning the presidential election
Yeah.
coming
Oh
up
yeah.
next year, probably. But I'm going to put that off to one side because I don't want to think
That's a
about it
good
right
point.
now. Beyond that, what I'd like to do is to continue to develop some specializations, John. I think the fun part for me now that we sort of have the machine up and running, I think we put a pretty good hopefully put a pretty good product out there for our rank and file customers. And then, you just see more unique stuff the longer you practice coming in. So I've been trying to get into some of the unique issues dealing with like delay cases, for example, for some of my clients, and dip my toes into federal court stuff. So my business partner's really been taking a lead on kind of trafficking issues, like the new deferred action labor stuff that's been coming out, and trying to kind of get some mastery of those things. I feel like there's a lot more Cuban people in southeastern Wisconsin than you'd think, and they have their own unique issues and stuff. So, kind of me and my associate been working on kind of mastering some of those things. So hopefully just continuing to get better, learning how to do certain types of practice and certain types of cases. And it's all about like the area of immigration I'm in, I think, is all about levers that you can pull for a client, right?
Yeah.
Somebody walks in, they tell you kind of a story, and it's like, okay, how many options do we have? And there's not that many, right? And if you can just unlock one other one, just based on having some more experience, it can totally change someone's
Yeah.
life. So that's what we're kind of hoping to do. Just every one day at a time, kind of.
The specialization you mentioned is just fascinating with immigration law. Just people can make a whole practice out of just Cuban immigration, the special programs
Right.
they've had. Like you said, the new trafficking stuff. Because every time USS updates something, especially this administration has done a good amount of them, it opens up a whole avenue where you kind of have to go back to even like what we've done is in our tracking system, we've added country search. So every time we get a client, we add the countries because
Yeah.
when they did this thing with South America and America where they get that special parole, all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to look up all our clients. A fast way to look up anyone from, Venezuela who could potentially do this parole program. And we didn't have a system that was really good for that for search. So it's like, and you got to call them up or I do this regular series with Kevin Gregg about federal litigation and all these notice to appear stuff that's problematic that could potentially lead to reopening of cases. Like you got to kind of go through your Rolodex the last couple of years and then find people that I can match because it really could change their lives. So there's so much specialization and unique issues that pop up that change things in immigration that it's fascinating. Both you can make a niche out of it and kind of keeping track of it is really important. And how do you find the clients, even the ones, because it's kind of like having loose change and dollar bills in your couch. Like you look like there's all this business there that's just sitting. You got to kind of reach out to go get it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that point. And it's there's so much stuff where it's like TPS all of a sudden gets announced to be extended. You got to contact every single person from El Salvador to take a peek at it or whatever, right? And it's like I feel like I don't know about the experience in a place like LA where you are, but here we're such an underserved market still. Like the market is nowhere close to saturated with immigration attorneys. So it's really like you're running a race against yourself. It's
Yeah.
like, what do you want your practice to be like? You don't necessarily need to have one thing that you're really good at or another thing, right? Because there's enough business. So it's like, the hardest thing is almost like, what do you want the practice to be like, right? Do you want
Yeah.
to make it so you can do a million different things and you do them pretty good? Do you want to do just like, I have some colleagues who only do like detain removal work for lawful permanent residents and they do really hard cases and they charge a premium for it. And they have 3 cases going at a time and other people have 300 cases going at a
Yeah.
time. So it's all, I don't know. It's that's like the fun part and also kind of the overwhelming part about it, I guess, at times.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
that's the point. Like, figuring out what kind of practice you want. It's hard for newer people because it's all over the place. But some people just keep doing everything because they think you're supposed to. But yeah, figure out how you want your lifestyle to be and what kind of cases, and just narrow in on that. Then there seems like there's just so many immigrants and stuff that there's never really a saturation. Even in LA, where there's a lot of immigration lawyers, once you kind of go over the hill of covering your costs and stuff like that, it opens up like you can really fine tune what you want to do because most people still don't get immigration lawyers. So there's a lot of untapped people where if you're able to persuade or let them know it's available, and there's different price structures, all that kind of stuff. There's business there. You just got to get over the hump of getting the basics. Once you're not stressing out about paying rent and stuff like that and basic
yeah.
payroll, then it really opens up the game of strategy of how to attack it and get what you want.
Right, exactly. And like, how much time do you want to spend on administration, right? Like, do you want to be, if you're going to run a medium to large firm and you're the managing attorney or whatever, do you want to spend half your time reviewing trust account statements and billing statements and stuff like that? Or would you rather have it where it's, you bring somebody else in to do that, you pay them more, right? It's almost like so customizable, the
Yeah.
practice experience. That's why, well, I'll give you a plug. That's why podcasts like yours are fantastic, John, because it just gives you an
Thanks
idea
so
about
much.
what you can be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just like hitting my head against the wall, and I feel like I'm on this track and you're just like doing the same thing every day. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's not the way that it is, right? Like
Yeah.
you can go in any direction you want to do, basically.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a wonderful thing as this business. You can do whatever you want to do the way you want to do it.
yeah.
You just got the skill that could do that. And what about personal life? Is your family there, or are you guys scattered around the country?
Yeah, I grew up. I mean, I think most folks that are, other than like people coming from other countries, I think most people that live in Milwaukee in southeastern Wisconsin are from here, generally speaking. It's not like necessarily like a big like magnet for pulling people from other regions and stuff. It's a lot of manufacturing and a lot of it's not like the most like we don't have like the redwoods in California or something here, right? It's just like you're from here, typically you are here, but which is I think why a lot of immigrants come here because it's a place where the quality, the cost of living is less and you can get a decent job that you don't have to speak English for.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we're around. I got 2 little kids running around, so that's always balancing that out with everything else. Just basically got some long roots in the area, and that's why it's kind of fun. I think this type of work because you think about it's like this is where my parents grew up. This is where my grandparents grew up. And it's like, these are our new neighbors who are coming in to like improve our community. So it does give you like a tangible sense of like, I don't know, to some degree, right? Like helping to make the area a better place, hopefully, by letting people step out of the shadows, live full lives, open businesses, do all that type of stuff. So
How much has the place shifted since you were a kid? Like the demographics or makeup? Is it noticeable that the foreigners are taking over kind of thing, or is it just slight incre? How does it look?
yeah, I mean, I think for sure. Like, I know there's like some studies out that say that like our population would be shrinking pretty rapidly if it weren't for foreign-born immigration. So it's like waves, I guess, like probably anywhere else. But it was like a lot of Mexican stuff when I was growing up. That's like, the community. That's like that was the big immigration wave. But now it's like Southeast Asian. I don't know, like West African, right? We have the biggest like Rohingya, which is like a Burmese minority group, I guess. That we have like the largest Rohingya population in the country here for whatever reason, like whatever quirk of refugee
Interesting.
resettlement. So it's like you see like mechanics and restaurants and stuff all of a sudden was like Rohingya lettering and stuff like that. So it's always there for sure, right? And who knows what comes next after this. So it's all I feel like it's already like Central Americans are already cooling off a little bit now. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
They're saying
that's
even
kind of
at
like
the
what makes
border.
America fun.
Yeah, there's things that happen at the border. It's all these populations that people wouldn't think about. It's like Chinese has always been like last couple of years have been a big people at the border group. But yeah, Rohingya. It's funny. I was not funny, but like I was talking to a colleague from Minnesota. They have a big Somali population. There's one of
Yeah,
the biggest
huge.
ones. So it's like these random communities go in certain places. It's really interesting to see how they develop and they really grow there.
Right.
It really has a unique story. It's popping my head. I wish I could tell. I'd come there and like analyze like how this community developed here, how they got connected here to grow so much.
Yeah. We have Somalis here, honestly, just as like a spillover because we're like the next state over from Minnesota. So it's like, the people are like, they want looking for a job here. So certainly helps with restaurants. That's definitely good. I think it helps in the community in a lot of different ways. I guess I'm biased because I'm an immigration lawyer, but I really do think that we'd be in a lot of trouble if we didn't have people still interested in coming to
Yeah,
places.
when you talk about the decrease of population, natural born people are just aren't having kids, so
Yeah.
it literally would be disappearing. I mean, they wouldn't be able to man the factories there, and manufacturing is something that's just disappearing in the U.S. There's some people like analysts that say manufacturing is going to come back with the high cost of shipping from China and all the international relations, globalization issues. And where you're at, I guess, I guess you have navigable waters there. That's good for shipping, I
Mm-hmm.
assume.
Right. Yeah. There's a, but like the average story of an immigrant, like I've seen done so many consults and cases. Now the average story is like a couple comes up from Mexico. They get married when they're 18. They have 3.5 kids or whatever. They work at the same factory for both of them for like 35 years. They buy a house all cash in like a not that nice neighborhood. And then they push their kids on education. Now it's like the kids are like dentists or whatever like that, right? And then that's like then the next then it's like then they're getting their papers now that their kids are adults, and then that's it. And it's like this whole existence in the community, right? It's like
Yeah.
home ownership. It's like probably the best employees at their company, right? Because they're just like great, they're undocumented and they're super grateful to have the opportunity. They're sending their kids to the colleges. I mean, now the kids live in the suburbs after that, right? And then it's just like the
Yeah.
American dream right there. So that's it. That's what we do every day. That's at least what I like to think
Well,
about the job.
I have one last question. I used to watch basketball a lot in the 90s, but then I stopped afterwards. I think like when I started the early 2000s, I started noticing that there was a lot of, I think the referees were rigging the game, so I kind of fell out of love with it.
Sure,
But
the Lakers Kings finals. I remember
exactly.
there's a dirty whistle for sure.
Yeah, it was a turning point. I remember seeing that. I'm like, none of this makes sense. And it shattered my passion for the game or watching it at least. But in the 90s, Milwaukee Bucks was one of the worst teams in the league.
Mhm.
But I think they won a championship a year or two ago.
They did.
How are they receive? Is it a big basketball country over there, or how do they like it over there?
I mean, basketball has always been my favorite sport, John. So I'm certainly a little bit biased, but I would say that it has not traditionally been the most popular sport here. That's probably baseball or football. But I will say that we have a 7 foot tall, formerly stateless Greek man who is maybe the best basketball player in the world, who just was walking around our community, and it's been pretty amazing getting to see. The way that he's been embraced by people who frankly have like no frame of reference for the stuff that he's gone through in his life, but he's just like the best and he's an amazing guy. And so, yeah, he's a folk hero now, man. There's huge murals downtown, all this stuff, like they're building on all this convention center stuff basically because of what he's been able to do. So
Do you see him walking
Yes,
down the street? Is he like in the
I have
country?
not personally seen him, but he's out there all the time. He's pretty tough to miss, from what I understand. So about a foot and a half taller than everybody else. So
Yeah, for those I guess don't follow, I take what's his full name? Giannis. I take
Giannis Adetokounmpo, which translates from Yoruba into "the king has returned from overseas," which I always
wonderful. So
liked.
Nigerian descent, grew up kind of like essentially without status in Greece.
Yeah, yeah,
But they gave him a passport once they saw he got. I guess he got a
exactly.
EB1A passport, the
The
passport or something.
Greek parliament had to pass a special law giving him citizenship, much like us private bill here in the United States for a citizenship process. Otherwise, he couldn't have gone to the tryout that let him get noticed by the NBA scouts that brought him here to the
Wow,
USA. So imagine that, right? If like you just hadn't been able to get a freaking passport, it'd be totally different. We would not be having this conversation probably. So
amazing.
yeah,
And one thing with Nigerian population getting more and more attention, you mentioned the Yoruba tribe, like their tribal system. They had the major tribes and stuff.
yeah.
On TV and stuff. I'm catching this more. And I'm like, I know so much more about Nigerian unique culture more and more every day. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it's amazing. But they're going to be a bigger player on global stage with the population and the income levels that Nigeria is developing. So it's going to be interesting, especially with things going on in West Africa and France and stuff. It's going to be some major tumult in the next year or two. It already is.
Oh yeah,
But
for
thank you so
sure.
much for coming on the show. If someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way they could do that?
Yeah, I mean, look us up, honestly, lateimmigration.com. That's LAYDE is the website. You can, Late Immigration on, or what is our name? Late and Para, my business partner, Gabby Para, Parra. Find us on Facebook. Shoot me an email, Kevin at lateimmigration.com. Always happy to chat, basically with anybody, anytime. And I truly appreciate it. This is the first time I've been asked to be on a podcast, John, so I appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure, my honor. Thanks so much for coming on, Kevin. Stick around for a couple minutes. But thanks everyone for listening. And we'll catch you again soon.